Welcome, this is Pineleaf Needle, Skirmisher Middle Earth. Today I am here, getting ready to run a skirmish to test how the new trading system works here on Volrower in preparation for the upcoming release of the Helm's Deep expansion. We are getting much closer. As I am recording this, we are only 10 days away, and I suspect it'll be about a week away when I actually get this posted. Now I'm going to run a skirmish here. We still have our usual panel. Now there are 4 items in here. We still have our skirmish selection. We have the Erebor one. Well, the Erebor one, most likely they are doing what they normally do, and that is removing them from that section. That might be the thing. Either that or... see, there's in their absence road to Erebor, so they are all still here, available here. It's just that they're turning off that section, so they still have the button there, but they haven't removed them. That seems to be typical in how they do things with each of the expansions, is to remove them. Now, it might be that they only removed them for the beta, but I suspect it's getting ready to remove them for launch and just fold those over into classic instances. Actually, let's have a look at that. Yeah, the road to Erebor is now in the classic instance section. So that's something to keep in mind, and of course the raids will be in the specific tab only. Let's go to skirmishes. Now we're going to run a single skirmish. Now I'm going to run this at tier 2, simply because I want to be able to go back and forth between various modes, and I have a feeling we'd be less likely to need to do that if I were in tier 1. Now I have 3 stances. Now I'll show you those layouts after I get in. Well, I'm going to run Thievery and Mischief, a typical tier 1 skirmish. And I'm doing an offensive one so I can control the pace and talk through things.
While war raged in the south and the rangers of the north were absent, brigands and ruffians took an opportunity
This
to
arm is
wrest
still hurt after
control
all
of
these
Greece.
years. And now here we are, typical opening for Thievery and Mischief. Now if I open up my traits panel, just in case you didn't see my video describing the trait trees, I have 1, 2, and 3 set up. On tree 1, I've got my determination stance that I'll probably use for when I have the encounters, since those will be a little bit tougher. So it's a more defensive stance. Now I'm not fully traded. You notice I have a few things so I can put extra points into here, since this is more of a solo stance than a true tanking stance. But that'll be useful for a fighting tougher people in skirmishes. Now recklessness is my second one, and I'm pretty heavily invested in the recklessness line. There's only one line where I don't have my points invested, and I also have an assailment set up here. Now I'm probably not going to do too much with the assailment. Assailment I usually think of as something if I expect to be fighting someone at range for long periods of time, and you rarely do that in solo unless you are in a situation where you got enemies that are holding back, but you usually don't find that out until you're in the middle of combat. That's not going to be useful as a trait line, I think, that unless you're doing DPS, range DPS, I think, normally. And the reason why I'm telling you about that is that the third one was unlocked through mithril coins. I only get 2 trees starting out. So I'm likely going to have a determination tree and a recklessness tree, but not an assailment tree unless I decide I really need a 3rd tree. So I'll probably be bouncing back and forth a little bit. Oh yes, it does help to summon my soldier. I don't want to leave flax behind in this. And oh yes, they changed the ambush button. I had forgotten about that. And as usual, wolves don't always get into combat right away. Now I haven't spent too much time in recklessness on live, I have to admit, because recklessness for me has always been power hungry. But it looks like it's no longer a guarantee drainage of my power, because my power after a fight like that would have been down to halfway, and that's the reason why I had always avoided that. Alright, where's the other wolf? Oh, yes, of course. Wolves just aren't linked in many of the skirmishes. And just about everything else is. Now here I could do extra damage on this recklessness skill, but it has a duration of 20 seconds. I can have 20 seconds of pure fury once every minute and a half. So that's something I need to learn how to get rid of. First aid is something I need to learn how to do. So if I get those venomous blood arrows get through me, I could take care of that. And with a 5-second cooldown, that's pretty nice. That could save me a lot in pots. And steadfast to shake off the daze and stun. That could be useful. Another one of these things? They must be holding a convention. Now marked target. I went through the trouble of creating the thing. So he's marked for 10 seconds, and therefore his physical mitigations are reduced during that time. So that's nice to do if you're fighting someone in there. Now, the marked target thing, I think that's from the... I don't want to bring up that panel out here, but that is something from the 3rd line. I guess they call that the yellow line. I always forget the colors that are associated with each of the lines in many of these things. Assailment line, yes, that's why I meant to call it. But yes, the assailment line is the yellow line. So you can see that the marked target is there. I've only got 1 rank in that, so it's not exactly major ones, because I have a lot in my main line here, so therefore not much in the outside ones. It's my determination line where I'm a little bit more of a hybrid. Now, obviously this is not an optimal way to fight, but I'm just making sure I don't attract the attention of the lieutenant there, which is why I'm fighting this at range. So I have occasion where I would fight in the assailment stance. It's just that I won't be doing it enough in order to justify too often going into the assailment tree. And I do it more as a precautionary thing to avoid attracting the attention of unwanted people by going too close. And which I can easily do that because my soldier is an archer. That would probably be less important to me if I were working with the warrior, since the warrior would probably go in and attract their attention anyway. Alright. Now, of course, there is no lieutenant here, so that wasn't exactly the most necessary precaution in the world. Let's see, I think my ambush. Induction, 4.7 seconds. Why is my induction so long? Did I forget to put points into my LI? Let me see. Oh yeah, I forgot to put points into my... Oh! No wonder I have been terrible this. I've been wondering why everything has been slow during the latest build, and that's because I didn't put any points into my legendary item. Please, I'll come back in a moment with all my legendary items filled up. I am back, and now I have points in my spear and javelin. I didn't put any points into my bridle since I'm doing this in a skirmish. So I just put some into DPS and into some light damage. And of course reduce my ambush and careful step, which is my usual thing that I like to do here. So now my ambush is down to 2 seconds, which is much, much, much better. And of course my DPS should be much better. Earned 1776 XP. Alright. An interesting number there. Alright, now here we've got one of these things. Alright, I guess that thing doesn't... Let me go against our friend here. Alright, the little software trouble there. Just to keep him off my soldier. Oh, that's right. Oh. Yeah, I just remembered about Steadfast after I finished Aldous Stun. Though it probably doesn't help too much against those short stuns. If the recovery time is longer than the time of the stun, it's usually not worth it. Using the recovery anyway. Now, of course, the healing is a little bit off now. That's right, I am in tier 2. That's the other thing I have to remember. Alright. Well, let me resummon Flax since she needs a little healing there. Now here, seeing what that troll just did to me, I am going to switch over to... No, not that. Switch over to this line for fighting the encounter. Oh yes, that's much, much, much better. I really should hit that earlier. Oh! Disadvantage of switching trait trees in the middle of a skirmish is you lose your soldier because it's a trait change. So it's highly recommended that if you do plan to go about switching stances in the middle of a skirmish, that you check your soldier first. It's something good to learn here rather than in the middle of oh. Unfortunately, the cooldown for this thing is 1.5 minutes, so I can only do that once in this battle. And I no longer have that recklessness thing where I could just go all out and rip things apart. Well, I do have this for the free peoples. Every gambit builder stacking mitigation buff. And here, Defiant Challenge, Reflect, yeah, let me... And of course, I put that on right as he runs away! I probably should use some of my healing skills for that also, since I am in Determination line and they are worth a bit more here. Alright. He hits a bit hard. Alright, I got oh, I should have waited until after I switched trait trees because I'm going back into recklessness since that would be more useful for the skirmish in general, I think. And yes, my soldier disappeared. At least now I know about that, so I can take that into account. If you really like to micromanage things, you could also change your class traits and your virtues in the middle of the skirmish. Ouch. Oh, that's right. I was thinking of using... Unfortunately, in that case, it doesn't help much to try assailment. To try assailment from afar is simply because I have that guy pounding on me, and when you're being pounded on in combat, you have a tougher time using the assailment stance. And that replaces the old penalty of not being able to use it against someone that's pounding on you. Instead, there's just a penalty as you get hit. Alright, now I got the zealot there. I can tell my soldier to hit. And I can go... Ah, okay, that's what this recklessness thing looks like. Oh, it's a 2 minutes cooldown for steadfast. I thought I had used it and... Oh well. I must have hit the button too late. Probably just as well. There we go. Now, one thing you gave me the... because I had noticed that 1776 simply... So I'm wondering what gave 1776 XP. Oh well, I guess I'll have to find out some other time. Yeah, maybe it was lieutenant or something like that. No, but the... Alright, well, okay, we've got a shepherd there. Now, the shepherd is always a real pain since... Okay. try to get the captain into combat first so that hopefully my soldier attacks the captain instead of the shepherd. I like to keep the shepherd out of combat as long as possible. I know the shepherd's hitting me. What I mean is I like to keep the shepherd from being hit as long as possible so that I get the benefit of getting everything else out before the shepherd has a chance to summon those things. And that way I don't fight everything at once. Okay, it looks like I got 2 of them just before they splattered me. But that was a rather close call there. Ah, good. So the skirmish itself really hasn't changed all that much. All that's changed is, of course, how the various classes work. But the layout of the skirmish is all the same as it was before. So no real surprises there. Here's the other encounter. Let's see what this encounter is like if I do it in recklessness. Rather than in the stance I was in before. Okay, let me get rid of that move. Alright, let me get rid of the right. I'm not going to go through many pots with this thing around. Oh, okay. So yeah, I'm already recovering, yes, by the time, because it was such a short stun. Alright, so I needed a little thing there, but it looks like... Ooh, looks like I survived the whole thing in this stance. Let's get rid of this serious move too. It only does one at a time, so that's the one thing to worry about. So I may occasionally need food, but I am a cook, so therefore it's not as bad because in the past I would just eat up power like crazy in there, but I survived reasonably well. Obviously I went to do the real fight against this one first. And who's Flax fighting? Oh no, Flax is on that. Alright, Flax, switch target. It's not like I'm about to run to a Zealot or an Echo of Death here in the next minute. Alright. Okay, that helps. Now, did I really have something to have triggered potency there? Because I didn't remember intentionally trying a move that would normally have triggered potency, so I better have to keep a look what's happening in battle memory. Of course, I could be clicking too fast for myself, which have been known to do with the Warden, where I'm clicking things very quickly and go to the next key before I get the previous key recognized, and I need to learn to slow down a little bit when using the Warden, which I'll probably never learn. Alright. always wonder about this because using ambush on one. Okay, let me just get that wolf. Okay, well I get all the wolves. Okay, the wolves seem to be linked with each other in here, but I have been known to do counterattacks and not all the wolves, and the wolves not necessarily come along. Yeah, very short stun. But for those longer stuns, then that steadfast can come in handy. Alright, do that. I still have to learn how to use those clickies. You know, you play a war and you don't have too much in the way of clickies, so... Now, of course, I could just not use marked target, since that is even something from the yellow line in any case, so it's not even something from the recklessness tree. So obviously, I'm not in dire need of it. So if I don't use it much, then I'll just not worry about trading it. Now, I noticed that if you decide to retrait, in other words, not just switch trees, but to clear out your current tree and then start from scratch, it costs a little bit more than a gold to do that. Now, it probably depends on the level, of course, and that would be at level 85. So it was about I think it was about a gold and a third or a gold and a half. I don't remember the exact price on that matter. I guess we can have a quick look at that. But to avoid any accidents, we'll do this in the assailment line. That way, if I get rid of it, it'll be getting rid of one that isn't a major problem. So if I hit respecial, it says 1 gold coin and 100 silver. Okay, so it's a little bit more than a gold. So I was right the way I expressed it the first time. And remember to bring back my soldier afterwards. So if you want to redo your entire specialization, it does cost, but it doesn't cost anything to just switch back and forth from the trait lines you have. But if I wanted to redo it without marked target, then I could do so. So I would only recommend that if you had a better place in which to actually spend those points and hit the right button. Now it's hard. I forget a bit that after combat, you'll see that we still got the item here for a little while. This is a change they made. This had to do with big battles where there's sometimes where you're constantly going in and out of combat and you weren't able to use any gambits effectively. So therefore they gave a grace period in getting back into combat, which is something Warden's never had in the past, and that can be useful. Alright, here is our general. Now I wonder whether should I try this in recklessness or should I try this in defensive stance. Well, let's do this in defensive stance. Just remember to bring in the soldier, which is something I did not do the first time I did something in defensive. No, not that. Just have to remember to hit the right item there. There we go. This is to make sure I don't get killed halfway through this battle. Bring in the soldier. Otherwise I have to do things. If I do keep on forgetting it, then you wind up having to spend mithril coins in order to get some soldier summonings. And get rid of the war banner. I always like to get rid of that war banner as quickly as possible. Alright, here we go. Mark target. Yeah. It lasts for 10 seconds, and it's only an 18-second cooldown, so it's something that I really should be using more often on this thing. Yeah, and let's just kill him. Yeah, so therefore the determination stance works a lot better when you've got your soldier with you. Though of course that was against the boss rather than against an encounter, and the encounters tend to be a little bit tougher. Let's see if they change anything on what's in the chest. Some fused iron relics, so only some tier 3s this time around. That tends to be a little bit on the random side in any case. Nothing really new here. Yeah, I didn't get any good drops in the course of the skirmish. And I presume that these tokens are as they usually were, and that I'll still keep on forgetting to use them. I remember to use them in small fellowship skirmishes, but I rarely remember to use them in solos, since they're not exactly the greatest thing that you need. But that was a tier 2 skirmish run using the Warden under the new trait system that is going online 10 days from the day in which I'm recording this. I suspect about a week from the time that I will be posting it. And until then, this is Pineleaf Needles. May your shield protect you, and your spear never break.